Alrighty, folks, 3 weeks after the election's already supposedly over, we have new news insofar as what the margin of victory was and how the left is now spinning these new results out of California, which, by the way, took, again, 20 days after the election until this juncture to actually count all their votes. And apparently, Donald Trump's popular vote victory went from 50.001% to 49.99%. And the reverse of Chicken Little is happening where the sky is falling, but for the Republicans, because apparently the Democratic columnists and these opinion piece writers on Politico, for example, are now saying that Trump does not have a mandate. They're saying that it's not actually a landslide anymore, despite the fact that Donald Trump has won by more than any other Republican since 1988, which was George Herbert Walker limping off with the remainder of the clout that was given to him by Ronald Reagan. Anyway, so let's get into the bottom of it. Why is it that people are now denying the electoral prowess of a guy who, again, won more than by anybody on the Republican side of things? But even beside it, think about it. Who in your right mind could you point to as being someone who would say that Trump would win the popular vote this election cycle? Very few people, including me. I was right. You're welcome. But guess what? Many people didn't even think that was possible. But yet people are going to deny the landslide results, which I find to be a little bit stupid. As we can see here, obviously Donald Trump won a vast majority of the states, and that is just quantifiably true. But then also when you look at the popular vote, maybe he didn't technically get 50%, but he did surely get right around there. Okay? So people are really going to get into the weeds as to, well, the guy won 49.9 versus 50.01. Now, also keep in mind, RFK got what percentage of the popular vote? In certain states, he got like 2, 3%. They removed him from the ballot in most places where he wanted to be taken off, but in places such as, I believe, Wisconsin and Michigan, namely, they did not take him off the ballot. And so these people that voted for RFK as a protest vote or voted before Election Day and when RFK was still more relevant in the race in, let's say, September, all of a sudden, these folks had their votes banked in as a protest vote. And so that lowers Trump's aggregate support. But likely, if you're supporting RFK and neither Trump or Harris, you're more likely a tacit Trump supporter. If not, you wouldn't have voted anyway if RFK didn't exist. My point being that those voters are hurting Trump's aggregate, okay? Now, this only means that Trump probably still got over 50% when you take it at the face value when you account for the RFK protest vote. But also keep in mind, chat, that of course, Donald Trump, I mean, look at what happened in 4 a.m. in Milwaukee, okay? So like to say that, all these votes are so accurate is not even true. Again, it was about swamp the vote. It was about overrunning the system to where they can't even rob it from Trump. And so I think, if anything, Trump probably won the popular vote by more than what they're saying. Here they have a result that's Trump plus 1.6. It probably was closer to Trump plus 2 at least. Remember, Lalo predicted a Trump plus 2.5. And guess who was pretty who was pretty accurate? Alrighty, folks. So today we're going to be covering also what they're going to do as an angle to then try to spin why Joe Biden's victory in 2020 was more impressive than Trump's. Now, just before I even read what the guy says here in the article, keep in mind that Joe Biden had a strong headwind. And what I mean is that, for instance, the fact that he was able to hide in the basement 80% of the time in and of itself proves that he had most things backing him in the election. Even beside that, think about it. Once in 100-year phenomena called a virus, such as the one that we saw 4 years ago, is something that, again, every once in a lifetime, really, and Joe Biden was pretty close to being around for the Spanish flu. And so anyway, the point being is that that virus in and of itself and all the consequences of the lockdowns and whatnot that was out of Trump's control for a lot of it, that totally obviously swapped the election for Joe. And again, I'm of the belief that Trump won 2020. But even if he didn't win it. The truth is that for the thing to be that close to be stolen in the first place, it's because of COVID obviously having lockdowns, of course, having things make it so hard for an incumbent president to kind of pitch himself to the voter when there's obviously a death counter on the CNN and the news banners, just people dying all the time. And that was a very unfair portrayal of the president. And yet here we are. And so, I mean, for Joe to win in that circumstance is asinine. Any other Democrat would have won by more, probably, if they were moderate. And so, anyway, also keep in mind, the demography of the country is ever more shifting Democratic. What I mean is that while Trump did win the popular vote here, the reason why it's so astounding and so surprising to everyone but me is because the demography has been shifting to be more non-white, to be younger skewing, but of the younger people, to be more non-American. And what I mean is that there were more immigrant foreign-born. There are more people that are becoming naturalized citizens from India, from not even Mexico anymore, but El Salvador, etc. These people tend to vote Democrat, not liberal, but Democrat. And these are partisan politics that play through. And so places like Colorado, largely, you could say a third of the reason why they're so far left nowadays is due to immigration. You look at California, huge amnesties in the 80s throughout the 90s made it basically very easy for the Democrats to keep a stranglehold over the state for the past decades. And the real reason is largely because of, again, immigration, but then also, white people become liberal in different instances, college educated, millennials, all that. But the truth is again, the more time goes on, the more immigration you get from, let's say, the third world, but even European immigrants might vote Democrat too. The more immigration you get in general will basically atrophy the support for Republicans. So a Democrat winning by 4.5, like Joe did in 2020, is basically like if Trump were to lose the popular vote by 2. Hard to explain it in that way, but I hope you understand what I'm saying. So anyway, when you read the page here, it'll say that Trump did what Joe Biden did 4 years ago, but with much less of the general public on his side. Biden won the vote by 4.5 points, making inroads with GOP demographics and capturing the swing states while his party held the House and retook the Senate by the narrowest possible margin. There was no talk back then of a Biden blowout, and appropriately so. Biden may have had the popular majority, but it was a squeaker, which is insane to me because if you know anything about this election, Joe Biden won 2020 by about 40,000 votes in 3 separate states, be it Georgia, Wisconsin, and I believe Arizona, my state. That is a squeaker. Again, popular vote is irrelevant in that circumstance when the Electoral College is the one that's really the kingmaker. Now, when you look at 2024, Trump won those states by about 250,000 amalgamated, okay? So he won Michigan concretely by a lot. He won Arizona by a lot. I mean, you look at the stats here. He won Michigan, for example, by 80,000 votes. That's way more than you could really say for most people historically. You look at Wisconsin. He won that state by 30,000. He won Arizona by 190,000. Okay, North Carolina, he won it by 173,000. Georgia, he won it by 115,000. So you can see how the margin is very different. Again, for Joe to be winning the state by half a point, here by 0.2, by 0.3, that's a squeaker. Popular vote aside. Trump won Wisconsin by 1. He won Arizona by like 6. He won Nevada by 3. He won Georgia by 3 almost. He won North Carolina by 4. He won Pennsylvania by like 2. My point being is that that's a big difference. In fact, it shows a big resonance with basically the heartland of the country, the swing states that matter, those key demographics. In fact, his victory is in general more symbolic than the Biden one. Nevertheless, keep in mind also, Biden's votes, again, were not trouncing Trump in the swing states. It was big centers of gravity in New York and the metropolitan areas, for example. And so, I mean, this sort of mandate for Biden does not really exist. But what the liberals are doing, which is sneaky, is saying, well, Biden didn't win by a lot, but so did in Trump. No, the truth is that Biden didn't actually win at all. But even if he did, it wasn't by that much. And Trump won by a lot. Now, that's the red pill. Now, that's where you want to be. Now that we're 8 minutes into the video, this is actually the special sauce. This is what actually is the angle that these liberals are going for. Okay, so to be clear, this is very interesting. The reason why this person wants to couch Trump's victory as not that great of one is because when Trump is appointing people like Pete Hegseth and otherwise very loyal people to the administration, they want to downplay his say in the matters of who's going to be in the cabinet and who's going to serve the American people in public service because he didn't win that by that much, okay? That's the gaslight. That's the reason why. Because Trump won by a lot, so he gets his say as to who runs the government. Obviously, people voted for that to be the case. But they're going to say, oh, he didn't win over 50%. Therefore, not a majority. Therefore, pick John McCain's daughter for Secretary of Defense. Well, by that logic, get Dick Cheney in the office. No. But let's read on. So if you look here, Trump is already using the idea of his being the era's dominant political figure to exert more control over the Republican legislative allies. Demanding that the Senate allow for recess appointments is a move of a big-time winner, but not a guy who can barely even win half of American voters. Again, here's the caveat. For a chief executive, it's always empowering when people buy the idea that you're a juggernaut. And for this chief executive, with his disregard for online norms and his campaign talk of retribution against enemies and an array of less authoritarian ideas for radical change, it's especially dangerous. End quote. So Think about that. So, oh, a guy didn't even get half of the vote and he's going to tell us what to do. That's the logic here. Guys, when you see people say Trump didn't win by that much in person, you got to push back. Because, of course, that is asinine. Trump won all the swing states. He won the popular vote when nobody thought he did. Most Republicans that thought Trump would win didn't even predict him winning the popular vote, okay? We're grading this on a curve. For a Republican to win the popular vote is like 5 times as hard for a Democrat. Hard to explain, but it's true. But it's true. But it is true. So in reality, folks, this really reads like an open letter memo to the Democratic establishment, as you can see here. This last paragraph and blurb is really what you need to understand, okay? So this guy claims, the presidency comes with enough legal authority by itself. Why assign any small margin winner the authority, moral authority, that comes with a popular mandate? For people in the business of reporting results and analyzing outcomes, it may feel satisfying to claim clarity after months of watching the battle. The only problem is that it's not true, end quote. Now, that's the thing he's complaining about. Why are you guys pretending like Trump won by a lot? You're giving him credence, guys, which honestly shows that us, again, I'm a Trump guy, we're winning because now the liberals are infighting about how much they need to admit to their ass whooping, frankly. And so this is actually really good news. And so anyways, it seems likely that what they're going to try to do going forward is now that Trump is officially under the 50% mark, which doesn't even matter for the popular vote, they're going to say, oh, he didn't technically win the popular vote majority. Therefore, then he doesn't get a mandate. So, I mean, guys, if you want to debunk whatever Michael Schaefer says down here, just keep in mind that in 1996, Bill Clinton won a huge mandate where he proceeded to not even get close to 50% of the vote against, again, Bob Dole and Ross Perot. And everybody with common sense would understand, well, he won the Electoral College by a lot, and he won more than the next guy. And so, therefore, it's a mandate. But these people would beg to differ because apparently they're nonsensical, and that's a surprise to nobody. But you kind of love to see it, okay? You love to see them suffer, and frankly, folks, we are enjoying it. So anyways, if you're tired of winning, leave now. And anyways, I'll see y'all in the next one. Like the video if you haven't yet. Subscribe if you want more content. Comment down below if you have any ideas, and I'll see you later. Adios.